Hello again, everyone. Edwin Leonard back once again in this YouTube astrological segment. I'm going to be talking about the 2025 Mercury in Leo retrograde transit part 2 of 3. And in this segment, I'm going to be talking about the transit's possible impact on the zodiac signs Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, and Virgo. And yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. So first thing up, as far as Aries goes, well, the fifth house is what's going to be emphasized and highlighted. So this can manifest in indirect communication with children and lovers. It could be where the person may speak in a very, authoritative and resolute manner to them, but it can be, more, subtle and indirect, kind of like, talking to another person saying, well, these children, they know who's boss. They know who the authority is in this place. It's like saying something, not directly, but in that manner, but in an indirect, subtle kind of manner, as an example. And also, this could be expressed in going back as far as a mental review, for, extravagant investments and matters pertaining to speculation, such as stocks. And also, Mercury retrograde could be about reevaluation, reassessment. So this could be about, the reevaluation of connection with children. It could be ones that are very domineering, confident, authoritative, considering, we're talking about, Leo energy. Now, next up, as far as Taurus goes, well, for Taurus, the fourth house is what's going to be emphasized and highlighted. So this could manifest in a review of, an extravagant, home situation. And also keep in mind the fourth house governs the latter part or end of life. So it could be, extravagant purchases, getting ready for that, point in time if you're not already in, that latter part of your life. And also, too, Mercury retrograde can be very more introspective. So this is about, could be looking within, being introspective regarding Leo qualities one may have at the core, such as being very confident, self-assured, dramatic, flamboyant, even ostentatious, gregarious, generous, magnanimous, but sometimes even arrogant or egotistical. This could be a time where there may be much reflection on those qualities that Taurus may have at the core. Now, also, too, there may be more, it could be authoritative speaking, but done in a more, deliberate and methodical manner, considering this is Mercury retrograde, and doing so, with home family members, the mother, people one is close to home with. And now going to the zodiac sign Gemini. Well, for Gemini, the third house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So this could be about, review of, could be conversation domination in general. One may be, reviewing well as he or she, dominating conversations too much or thinking, too much in a superior manner, not really, thinking about other people's, ideas or their thoughts, their opinions on a matter. There may be, review regarding superior thinking, regarding just mental tasks in general, and things that could involve, like manual dexterity, such as auto or refrigeration, mechanics. And there may be, more deliberate, methodical communications, speaking in a more, authoritative and resolute manner with those that are, people that are, siblings, cousins, neighbors, those that may have been prominent in one's early education. Now, going to the zodiac sign Cancer. Well, for the zodiac sign Cancer, the second house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So, one way this could manifest could be more like mental review over, extravagant spending in general, over, one's, possessions, and, whether, these purchases were worth, spending on, or there's some frivolous purchases that I didn't need to get, in which I spent more money on, than what was needed, as an example. about, Mercury retrograde, we're talking about going back. So it could be going back, so to speak, to one's, values. And, again, this is Leo, values could be involved in being magnanimous, generous, confident, being able to, express, one's talents and abilities, being brave, courageous, expressing, being noble, charismatic, even dignified, taking pride in what is being done, as some examples. And also, too, there may be more introspection regarding, one's talents and abilities. And this could include, like acting or performing, whether it's circus performing, doing, things that require, attention. It could be creative ability or some work with children. It could be some kind of ability, to produce, games, as some examples. It could be some abilities for sports. Now, going to Leo. Well, for Leo, the first house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So, this is, really can emphasize a lot of, communication, even though it may be more indirect, but being very resolute and authoritative. There may be a lot of communication expressed outwardly, but there's going to be more, likely more review before saying what he or she needs to say. It could be, also this could be about a lot of mental review about the self, the characteristics of the outer self, and what one is projecting, especially if this is actually the ascendant, one is projecting outwardly. Those characteristics can include, being, confident, resolute, self-assured, flamboyant, could be, gregarious, extroverted, charismatic, even philanthropic. And it's also, too, could be a lot more communication in terms of those with a grandparent and those that were prominent in one's early childhood. And it's a lot of, could be some loud communications, or it could just simply be, speaking, with a lot of confidence, and really just, could be talking about, Leo-related things, whether it's things of a creative nature, or children, or the military, or sports, as some examples. Now, going to the zodiac sign Virgo. Well, for Virgo, the 12th house is what will be emphasized and highlighted. So, there may be a review over maybe being overly, extravagant and generous to people that may be, hidden adversaries, those that may be posing as friends, but are secretly or covertly acting, are really one's enemies, just using Virgo for his or her purposes. And it could also be about, reviewing, thinking, where the thinking may be somewhat superior. You think your ideas are superior, and, and also maybe even delusional, in terms of, thinking, well, I'm going to be able to do this, being overconfident in certain things that he or she may do, and it could result in the self-undoing. And also, too, again, Mercury, retrograde, it could be about going back to perhaps being in Leo. It could be some Mercury in Leo creative writing, that may have been done, in solitude or seclusion. And we're talking about Mercury, being in the 12th house, and Mercury retrograde is generally less communication. Again, it's more introspective. Then you have it in the 12th house of limitations and restrictions. So it could be a time where Virgo is really even more reticent, than usual regarding, his or her, communications, and there may be more, communications for Virgo, in private and solitude, seclusion, and behind the scenes, more so than usual. Anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, Edwin Leonard saying, stay well.